are just a poor, stinking bodyguard. Oh my goodness.
The sound of the gunshot shattered the ballroom 3 seconds before Amelia Laurent realized the man standing beside her had just taken a bullet meant for her chest. Women screamed. Champagne glasses exploded onto the marble floor. A senator dropped beneath a banquet table while armed agents pulled weapons from beneath tuxedos. And in the middle of the chaos, Amelia stared down in horror as her bodyguard collapsed to one knee, blood spreading across the shoulder of his black suit. But what destroyed her the most was the fact that only 12 hours earlier, she had laughed in his face and called him a broke little soldier pretending to matter. And now he was dying to save her. Before we continue, welcome to ViralStoryHub. If you're new here, kindly like, subscribe, and comment below. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. Stay with us till the end because this story is about to take a turn nobody sees coming. 3 months earlier. Amelia Laurent hated bodyguards. Not disliked. Hated. To her, they represented everything wrong with her life. Control. Surveillance. No freedom. Ever since her father, billionaire tech investor Gregory Laurent, survived an assassination attempt during a business merger scandal, security around the family had become unbearable. Armed SUVs. Private escorts. Restricted movements. It was suffocating. And Amelia made sure every bodyguard assigned to her quit within weeks. Sometimes days. But none of them lasted longer than 48 hours after meeting her. Until Nathan Cole arrived. Nathan wasn't like the others. He didn't flatter her. Didn't smile nervously. Didn't try to impress her. The first thing he said after stepping into the Laurent mansion was, "Where are the exits?" Not, "It's an honor to protect you." Not, "Miss Laurent, I'm your new security detail." Just cold, professional focus. Amelia looked him up and down with visible disappointment. Tall. Broad shoulders. Military posture. A scar cutting through one eyebrow. And eyes so emotionless they irritated her instantly. "You're the replacement?" she asked. Nathan glanced around the room calmly. "Yes. That's it?" "Yes." She folded her arms. "You know who I am, right?" "Yes." "And you still think talking to me like a robot is acceptable?" "Yes." One of the maids almost choked trying not to laugh. Amelia narrowed her eyes. "Oh, this is going to be fun." Nathan ignored the sarcasm. "I'll need access to all entrances, your daily schedule, and your phone tracking permissions enabled." She blinked slowly. "Absolutely not. You don't have a choice." Her expression hardened immediately. "I always have a choice." Nathan finally looked directly at her. "No, Miss Laurent. You don't." That was the moment she decided she hated him. Over the next 2 weeks, Amelia turned Nathan's life into a nightmare. She intentionally changed schedules without informing him. Snuck out through hotel kitchens. Dismissed him publicly. Called him Captain Broke. Once, during lunch with friends at an upscale Beverly Hills restaurant, she laughed loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "My father really hired a discount bodyguard." Her friends laughed. Nathan stood beside the table without reacting. One of her friends smirked. "Wait, were you actually in the army?" Nathan nodded once. "How much does a bodyguard even make?" Amelia answered before he could. "Apparently not enough to buy a personality." More laughter. Still, Nathan didn't respond. And somehow, that irritated her more. Because no matter what she said, he never lost control. Never raised his voice. Never insulted her back. It was like arguing with a wall. Later that evening, Amelia stormed into the underground garage after another argument. Nathan followed a few feet behind. You embarrassed me tonight, she snapped. You embarrass yourself. She stopped walking instantly. What did you say? You mock people to entertain your friends. She stared at him in disbelief. You work for me. No. I work to keep you alive. The tension between them became suffocating. For a second, neither moved. Then Amelia laughed bitterly. You know what your problem is? Nathan remained silent. You think being poor and traumatized makes you morally superior. Still silence. She stepped closer. But let me explain something to you, Nathan. Men like you always think rich people are spoiled. Meanwhile, you trade places with us in a second. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Pain. Not anger. Pain. You don't know anything about me. Then he walked away. That should have been the end of it. But later that night, Amelia noticed something strange. Nathan wasn't in his usual position outside the estate. Curious despite herself, she took her car and followed the GPS tracker attached to the security vehicle. 20 minutes later, she arrived outside St. Jude Children's Hospital. Her confusion deepened as she watched Nathan step out carrying flowers and a stuffed bear. Amelia frowned. Then she followed him inside. And what she saw completely shattered her assumptions. Nathan sat beside a little girl in a hospital bed, laughing softly while helping her paint tiny stars onto paper. The little girl couldn't have been older than 10. Her skin was pale from chemotherapy. But her smile lit up the entire room. Nate, your stars are ugly, she giggled. Nathan pretended to look offended. My stars are tactical. There's no such thing as tactical stars. There is in space warfare. She burst into laughter. Amelia stood frozen outside the doorway. Because this man, this cold, emotionless bodyguard, looked completely different. Human. Warm. Alive. The little girl noticed Amelia first. Nate, someone's spying on you. Nathan turned. The second he saw Amelia, his expression hardened again. What are you doing here? She suddenly felt awkward. The little girl smiled brightly. Hi. Amelia walked inside slowly. Hi. Nathan stood immediately. You shouldn't be here. Amelia ignored him and looked at the child. What's your name? Emily. Nathan exhaled quietly. My sister. Amelia looked stunned. Sister? You never mentioned having family. You never asked. Emily rolled her eyes dramatically. He's rude because he thinks it's emotionally mysterious. Amelia laughed unexpectedly. Nathan looked mildly betrayed. Emily pointed at Amelia. You're prettier on TV. Nathan pinched the bridge of his nose. Emily. What? It's true. Amelia smiled softly. What happened to you? Emily lifted her tiny shoulders. Leukemia. The room went quiet. Amelia slowly looked at Nathan. And suddenly everything made sense. The overtime shifts. The exhaustion. The worn-out shoes. The old truck. The emotion hidden behind discipline. He wasn't just working. He was surviving. For her. For Emily. Later that night outside the hospital, Amelia leaned against her car while Nathan stood several feet away. You could have told me, she said quietly. It's private. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to. For once, Amelia didn't have sarcasm ready. Instead she asked softly, how long has she been sick? 2 years. And you've been paying for treatment alone? Yes. She swallowed hard. That's why you took this job. Nathan looked away. The pay helps. The guilt hit her harder than expected. Every cruel joke she'd made suddenly replayed in her head like punishment. "I'm sorry." Nathan looked genuinely surprised. "For what?" "For acting like a spoiled idiot." Silence. Then finally. "Most rich people don't apologize." "Well, maybe most rich people are terrible." A faint smirk appeared on Nathan's face for less than a second. But Amelia saw it. And somehow, that tiny smile affected her more than it should have. From that night forward, everything began changing between them. Slowly. Dangerously. Amelia stopped trying to humiliate him. Instead, she started noticing things. Like how Nathan always checked exits before entering restaurants. How he stood closest to traffic while walking beside her. How he never ate until everyone else had food first. And how every single night at exactly 9 p.m. he called Emily before bed. One evening after a charity gala, Amelia sat beside Nathan in the back seat of the SUV while rain hammered the windows. "You ever regret joining the military?" she asked. Nathan kept his eyes ahead. "No. Even after everything?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because it taught me how to survive." She looked out the window quietly. "And are you happy?" Nathan didn't answer immediately. Then finally. "Survival and happiness aren't always the same thing." That line stayed in Amelia's mind for days. And the worst part? She was starting to care about him. Really care. Which terrified her. Because Nathan Cole was the first man in years who treated her like a human being instead of a billionaire trophy. And she had no idea what to do with that feeling. One Friday night, things changed again. Amelia attended an elite fundraiser in downtown Los Angeles with her father while Nathan remained close behind. The ballroom overflowed with politicians, celebrities, and investors. Music played softly. Champagne sparkled beneath crystal chandeliers. Everything looked perfect. Until Nathan suddenly stiffened. His eyes scanned the upper balcony. Then he grabbed Amelia's wrist hard. "We're leaving." She frowned. "What? Now?" His voice had changed. Sharp. Dangerous. Gregory Laurent noticed immediately. "Nathan? Move." The first gunshot exploded through the ballroom. Glass shattered. People screamed. Nathan threw Amelia behind a marble pillar just as another bullet ripped through the air where her head had been seconds earlier. The ballroom descended into complete chaos. Security agents pulled weapons. Guests trampled each other trying to escape. Amelia's heart slammed violently against her chest as Nathan shielded her body with his own. Then she heard it. A gunshot. Followed by Nathan grunting in pain. Her eyes widened in horror as blood spread across his shoulder. "Nathan." He grabbed her face immediately. "Look at me." His breathing became uneven. "You stay down until I say move. Understand? You've been shot." "Amelia." She froze. His eyes locked onto hers. And for the first time since meeting him, she saw fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. Amelia's hands trembled violently as she pressed against Nathan's bleeding shoulder behind the marble pillar. The ballroom had become a war zone. People screamed while security agents dragged terrified guests toward emergency exits. Somewhere across the room, shattered chandeliers sparked against the floor while smoke drifted through the air. Nathan winced in pain but kept his body positioned protectively in front of hers. "Listen carefully," he said through clenched teeth. "When I tell you to run, don't stop for anybody. I'm not leaving you. You don't get to argue with me right now." Another gunshot cracked through the ballroom. Nathan instantly pulled her lower as bullets tore through the bar behind them. Amelia's breathing became ragged. "Oh my God. Nathan reached for the concealed weapon beneath his jacket with his uninjured arm. His face had turned pale from blood loss. But his eyes remained terrifyingly focused. One of Gregory Laurent's security men rushed toward them. "We need to move now." Nathan nodded once. Then he looked at Amelia. "When I move, stay behind me." She stared at the blood soaking his suit. "You can barely stand." "I can stand long enough." Before she could answer, Nathan grabbed her hand and moved. Everything happened fast. Too fast. Bodies running. Tables overturned. People crying. Nathan pushed Amelia toward the emergency hallway while firing twice toward the balcony. Then suddenly, a third gunshot exploded. The security guard beside them collapsed instantly. Amelia screamed. Nathan shoved her against the wall just before another bullet struck the concrete behind her head. "Move," he shouted. She had never heard his voice like that before. Raw. Desperate. Terrified. Nathan half-dragged her through the service corridor while alarms screamed throughout the building. By the time they reached the armored SUV outside, Amelia was shaking uncontrollably. Nathan opened the back door for her. "Get in." "What about you?" "I'm driving." "You're bleeding." "I said get in." She obeyed instantly. Nathan climbed behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel tightly as blood dripped from his fingers. 3 black SUVs sped away from the gala while police sirens echoed through downtown Los Angeles. Inside the vehicle, Amelia stared at Nathan in horror. His breathing had become heavier. "Nathan. I'm fine." "You're not fine." "I said I'm fine." But his voice sounded weaker now. Amelia quickly removed the silk scarf from around her neck and pressed it harder against his wound. Nathan flinched slightly. "Keep pressure there." Her eyes filled with tears. "You took a bullet for me." Nathan kept his eyes on the road. "That was the job." "No," she whispered. "That wasn't just the job." For several seconds, silence filled the SUV except for the sound of rain and sirens outside. Then Nathan spoke quietly. "They were trying to kill you." Amelia looked stunned. "What?" "The shots weren't aimed at your father." Her stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Nathan finally glanced at her. "You were the target." The words hit harder than the gunfire. Back at the Laurent estate, chaos consumed the mansion. Federal agents flooded the property. Phones rang non-stop. Security teams searched every corner. Gregory Laurent paced furiously while doctors treated Nathan's shoulder in the private medical room. Amelia stood nearby refusing to leave. The doctor removed the bullet carefully. "You're lucky," he said. "A few inches lower and this could have killed you." Nathan barely reacted. Amelia, however, looked sick. The moment the doctor stepped away, she moved closer. "Why didn't you duck?" Nathan looked confused. "What? You saw the shot coming?" "Yes. And instead of moving, you covered me." He stared at her quietly. "That's my responsibility." "No," her voice cracked emotionally. "Stop saying that like it means nothing." Nathan's jaw tightened. "You think I regret it?" Amelia looked down instantly. "That's not what I meant." "Then what do you mean?" She struggled for words. Because deep down, the truth terrified her. Nathan almost died for her. And she suddenly realized losing him would destroy her. That realization scared her more than the assassination attempt itself. Gregory entered the room moments later. His expression darkened the second he saw Nathan sitting upright despite the injury. "You should be resting." Nathan stood immediately. "I'm operational." "The hell you are." Nathan ignored the pain in his shoulder. "We need to identify who leaked tonight's schedule." Gregory frowned heavily. You think this came from inside? Yes. Amelia's stomach tightened. An insider. Someone close. Someone with access. Nathan turned toward Gregory. Until we know who organized the attack, Amelia doesn't leave protection. Amelia immediately groaned. Nathan. No. She crossed her arms. You don't own me. No, Nathan replied calmly. But apparently people are trying to murder you. Gregory looked exhausted. He's right. Amelia threw her hands up. Fantastic. So now I'm officially a prisoner. Nathan's expression hardened slightly. You're alive. For once. She had no comeback. That night Amelia couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nathan getting shot. The blood. The gunfire. His face when he shielded her. At almost 2 a.m., she quietly walked downstairs toward the kitchen for water. But she froze halfway there. Nathan sat alone in the dark living room. Wide awake. One hand pressed against his bandaged shoulder. The TV remained muted while city lights glowed through the massive windows. You should be asleep, she said softly. Nathan didn't turn around. So should you. Amelia walked closer slowly. You're in pain. I've had worse. She sat across from him quietly. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Amelia finally whispered. Why did you do it? Nathan looked at her carefully. You know why? No. I don't. His voice became softer now. Because if something happened to you, he stopped himself. Amelia's heart pounded. If something happened to me what? Nathan looked away first. That would be bad. She almost laughed. That's your emotional confession. A faint smile touched his lips. It's all you're getting. For the first time since the shooting, Amelia smiled too. Small. Real. And painfully vulnerable. Then suddenly Nathan's phone rang. His expression changed instantly when he saw the caller ID. Emily. He answered immediately. Hey, kid. Amelia watched his entire demeanor soften. Did you catch bad guys yet? Emily asked weakly through the speaker. Nathan glanced briefly at Amelia. Working on it. I saw the news. I'm okay. You got shot again. Nathan sighed. It barely counts. Emily's tiny voice cracked slightly. You promised me you'd stop getting hurt. The room fell silent. Nathan closed his eyes briefly. I know. Amelia quietly stood. I'll leave you two alone. But before she could walk away, Nathan unexpectedly reached for her wrist gently. She stopped. Their eyes met. And for several seconds, neither moved. The moment felt dangerous. Too intimate. Too honest. Nathan slowly released her wrist. Good night, Amelia. Her chest tightened strangely. Good night. The next few days became suffocating. News channels exploded with coverage of the assassination attempt. Security around Amelia doubled. And Nathan became even more protective than before. Which somehow made things emotionally worse. Because now Amelia noticed every little thing. The way he watched doors before entering rooms. The way he instinctively moved closer whenever strangers approached her. The way exhaustion hid beneath his calm expression. And most dangerously, the way she felt safe whenever he was near. One afternoon Amelia walked into the garage and found Nathan repairing his old truck himself. She leaned against the doorway. You know billionaires usually pay people for this. Nathan didn't look up. I'm aware. You really hate spending money. I like earning things. Amelia watched him quietly. Can I ask you something? Yes. Why don't you ever get angry at me, That finally made him pause. He wiped grease from his hands slowly. I do get angry. I've insulted you 100 times. Yes. And you never snapped. Nathan looked directly at her. Because you were hurting. She blinked. What? You wanted reactions from people because attention feels safer than honesty. Amelia stared speechlessly. How do you know that? Because soldiers do the same thing. That hit her harder than expected. Nathan stood slowly despite the pain in his shoulder. You push people away before they can disappoint you. Her throat tightened. You think you know me? I think you're lonelier than anyone realizes. Silence. Heavy silence. Then Amelia whispered. You make me feel seen. Nathan froze. The tension between them instantly became overwhelming. His voice dropped lower. Amelia. She stepped closer. I mean it. Nathan's jaw tightened visibly. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because this situation is complicated. You mean because you work for my father? Yes. And because you think I'll ruin your life? Nathan looked away. That too. Before Amelia could answer. A black SUV suddenly sped toward the estate gates outside. Nathan reacted instantly. Get inside. The vehicle smashed violently through the security barrier. Gunmen jumped out firing automatic weapons. Everything erupted into chaos. Nathan grabbed Amelia and shoved her behind the truck as bullets shattered windows across the garage. Amelia screamed. Security alarms exploded throughout the property. Nathan pulled his weapon immediately. Stay down. One gunman advanced toward the garage firing wildly. Nathan returned fire twice. The attacker collapsed instantly. But more armed men flooded through the property. Amelia's breathing became panicked. What is happening? Nathan's face darkened. This isn't random. He grabbed her hand tightly. They're here for you. Then one of the attackers shouted from outside. Take the girl alive. Nathan's entire expression changed. Pure fury. And in that terrifying moment, Amelia realized these men weren't trying to kill her anymore. They were trying to take her. And Nathan looked ready to destroy anyone who touched her. Before she could process another thought, a massive explosion rocked the front of the mansion. The lights flickered violently. Smoke filled the air. Nathan grabbed Amelia's face firmly. Listen to me very carefully. Fear shook her voice. Nathan. If we get separated, you run to the east security tunnel beneath the guest house. What about you? I'll find you. Gunfire thundered closer. Nathan loaded another magazine calmly. Then he looked at her with an intensity that stole her breath. No matter what happens tonight. His voice lowered. I'm not letting them take you. The next 30 seconds felt like the end of the world. Gunfire tore through the estate while smoke rolled across the garage ceiling. Amelia's ears rang from the explosion as Nathan pushed her behind a concrete support beam. Another attacker rushed through the side entrance. Nathan fired instantly. The man dropped before he could pull the trigger. But more footsteps echoed outside. Too many. Nathan grabbed Amelia's hand tightly. We move now. They sprinted through the back hallway of the garage while alarms screamed across the mansion grounds. Somewhere upstairs, glass shattered violently. Amelia struggled to breathe. Who are these people? Nathan's face remained cold and focused. Professionals. How do you know? They move like military contractors. That terrified her even more. This wasn't random. Someone rich enough to hire trained killers wanted her badly. They reached the guest house corridor just as two armed men appeared ahead. Nathan reacted instantly. He shoved Amelia behind him and fired twice. One attacker fell immediately. The second returned fire. Bullets ripped through the walls inches from Amelia's face. Nathan lunged forward brutally, slamming the attacker against the hallway wall before disarming him with terrifying precision. The man reached for a knife. Nathan punched him hard enough to knock him unconscious. Amelia stared at him in shock. "You learned all that in the army?" Nathan grabbed more ammunition from the attacker. "You learn fast when people are trying to kill you." Then suddenly, Nathan's phone buzzed. Gregory Laurent. Nathan answered quickly while keeping his weapon raised. "Sir." Gregory's voice sounded panicked. "They breached the East Wing. Federal agents are on the way." Nathan looked toward Amelia immediately. "We're moving underground." "Hurry," Gregory warned. Someone inside the company leaked the security routes. Nathan's expression darkened. Inside the company. An insider really was helping them. The line disconnected. Amelia's chest tightened with fear. Who would do this? Nathan looked grim. "Someone close to your father." Before she could respond, heavy footsteps thundered toward them again. Nathan cursed under his breath. "They found us." He grabbed Amelia's hand and pulled her toward the hidden tunnel beneath the guest house. The narrow underground corridor was dark except for emergency lights glowing red along the walls. Amelia's breathing shook violently. Nathan moved ahead carefully with his weapon drawn. Then behind them, a voice echoed through the tunnel. "Amelia Laurent." She froze instantly. Nathan turned sharply. A tall man in a black coat slowly stepped into view surrounded by armed guards. Damian Mercer. Gregory Laurent's business partner. Amelia's eyes widened. "Damian?" The older man smiled calmly. "This really has become exhausting." Nathan immediately positioned himself in front of her. Damian chuckled lightly. "You must be the famous bodyguard." Nathan's voice became ice cold. "You're behind this." Damian shrugged casually. "Your employer made very expensive mistakes." Amelia stared in disbelief. "You tried to kill me." Damian sighed dramatically. "That was never the original plan. Unfortunately, you overheard information you shouldn't have. The offshore accounts. The corruption. Everything suddenly connected." Amelia shook her head slowly. "You destroyed my father's company." "No," Damian replied calmly. "Your father destroyed it the moment he threatened to expose me." Nathan tightened his grip on the gun. "You're not leaving here." Damian laughed softly. "You think this ends with heroics?" Then his expression darkened. "Lower the weapon." At least 8 armed men stepped from the shadows. Nathan instantly realized the odds. Amelia saw it too. And fear consumed her. Damian pointed toward her. "Take the girl." Nathan fired first. Chaos exploded through the tunnel. Bullets ricocheted violently off concrete walls. Nathan grabbed Amelia and pushed her behind cover while returning fire with brutal precision. One attacker dropped. Then another. But there were too many. Amelia screamed as bullets tore through pipes overhead. Steam burst into the tunnel. Nathan's shoulder, already injured, began bleeding again. "Nathan. I'm okay." He clearly wasn't. An armed man suddenly appeared from the side corridor. Nathan reacted too late. The attacker slammed him hard into the wall. His gun skidded across the floor. Amelia's heart nearly stopped. The man raised his weapon toward Nathan's head. And Amelia moved without thinking. She grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and swung it with everything she had. Crack. The attacker collapsed instantly. Nathan looked stunned for half a second. Amelia's hands trembled violently. I hit him." Nathan grabbed his weapon again quickly. Remind me never to annoy you. Even in the middle of terror, she almost laughed. Then Damien shouted furiously from deeper in the tunnel. Enough. More gunfire erupted. Nathan grabbed Amelia again. We have to move. They ran deeper underground while bullets chased behind them. Finally they reached the emergency exit leading toward the marina behind the estate. Cold night air slammed against them as they burst outside. Police sirens echoed in the distance now. But Damien and his men were still close. Nathan pushed Amelia behind parked boats near the dock. His breathing had become dangerously uneven. Blood soaked through his shirt heavily now. Amelia grabbed his face desperately. You need a hospital. Nathan shook his head. Not until you're safe. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Why do you keep doing that? Doing what? Acting like your life matters less than mine. Nathan stared at her intensely. Because if something happens to you. His voice broke slightly. Amelia's chest tightened painfully. What? For several seconds he said nothing. Then finally. Because I love you. The words hit her harder than the gunfire. Everything around her disappeared. The fear. The chaos. The sirens. Only Nathan remained. Amelia's eyes filled instantly with tears. You idiot, she whispered emotionally. I love you too. Nathan looked genuinely shocked. A faint laugh escaped him despite the pain. Well, that timing could have been better. Then suddenly. A gun clicked behind them. Damien. He stood several feet away aiming directly at Amelia. This has become unbelievably dramatic. Nathan instantly moved in front of her despite barely standing. Damien smirked. You'd really die for her? Nathan's voice remained calm. Yes. Damien shook his head slowly. Pathetic. Then he pulled the trigger. Everything slowed. Amelia screamed. Nathan turned instinctively. The bullet slammed into his side. He collapsed immediately. Nathan. Damien raised the gun again toward Amelia. But before he could fire, federal agents stormed the marina from both sides. Drop the weapon. Damien tried to run. 3 agents tackled him violently onto the dock. The nightmare was over. But Amelia barely noticed. She dropped beside Nathan trembling uncontrollably as blood spread beneath him. No, 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 no. Nathan struggled to breathe. His face had gone pale. Amelia pressed both hands desperately against the wound. Stay with me. Nathan looked at her weakly. You're crying. Obviously I'm crying. A faint smile touched his lips. I think, you like me now. She broke down completely. I swear to God if you die after making a joke. Nathan winced painfully. That sounded like a threat. Shut up and stay awake. Paramedics rushed toward them seconds later. Everything blurred afterward. Hospital lights. Doctors running. Blood on her hands. Gregory arriving in panic. Hours passed like years. Finally, just after sunrise, the surgeon entered the waiting room. Amelia stood instantly. The doctor smiled faintly. He's going to survive. Her knees nearly gave out from relief. For the first time in years. Amelia Laurent cried without trying to hide it. 3 weeks later, Los Angeles finally felt quiet again. Damien Mercer was in federal custody. The corruption scandal dominated every news channel in America. Gregory Laurent publicly stepped away from several company operations while investigations continued. And Nathan. Nathan was alive. Still stubborn. Still impossible. Amelia walked into his hospital room carrying coffee and flowers. Nathan looked up from the bed. You know flowers are usually for dead people. She rolled her eyes. And good morning to you too. Nathan smiled slightly. The sight of him smiling openly still felt unreal. Amelia sat beside him quietly. For a moment neither spoke. Then Nathan looked at her carefully. You stayed. Amelia frowned. Of course I stayed. Most people don't. Her expression softened instantly. Well, I'm not most people. Nathan reached for her hand slowly. And this time, she held on tightly. A month later, Nathan finally returned to the Laurent estate for the first time since the attack. Emily nearly tackled him with excitement. You got shot again, she yelled. Nathan sighed. It was slightly inconvenient. Emily pointed accusingly at Amelia. You're stressing him out. Amelia laughed for the first time in what felt like forever. Your brother is impossible to kill. Gregory watched them quietly from across the room. Then finally he walked toward Nathan. The tension immediately shifted. Gregory extended his hand. You saved my daughter's life. Nathan shook it once. I was doing my job. Gregory looked directly at him. No. You loved her. Silence filled the room. Then Gregory smiled faintly. And honestly, I've never seen Amelia this happy before. Amelia blinked in surprise. Her father rarely spoke emotionally. Nathan looked at her softly. And in that moment, everything changed. 6 months later, Nathan took Amelia back to the exact rooftop where they once shared takeout during a rainstorm. The Los Angeles skyline glowed beneath the night sky. Amelia smiled softly. You planned this. Maybe. That's suspiciously romantic. Nathan reached into his pocket slowly. Then Amelia froze. Because suddenly there was a ring in his hand. Simple. Silver. Beautiful. Nathan looked nervous for the first time in his life. I spent most of my life surviving, he said quietly. Then you showed up and made me want more than survival. Amelia's eyes filled with tears instantly. Nathan. You were the most frustrating person I'd ever met. She laughed through tears. That sounds more accurate. But somewhere between the arguments, and the chaos, and you almost getting me killed repeatedly. Amelia gasped dramatically. You got yourself shot. Nathan smiled. I fell in love with you. Her heart completely melted. He took a slow breath. So Amelia Laurent. His voice softened. Will you marry me? She didn't even let him finish. Yes. Nathan barely had time to react before she threw her arms around him. And for the first time in years, Nathan Cole stopped carrying the weight of the world alone. Because now he had someone beside him. Someone who saw him. Loved him. And chose him. Every single day. Thank you so much for staying till the end of this emotional story. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your favorite moment below. Also tell us where you're watching from because we love hearing from you. And remember, sometimes the people we look down on today become the very people who save our lives tomorrow.